Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I'll call the meeting of the Governance Strategy and City Operations Committee. Councilor Kretzer is not present, so I guess I'll ask for a roll call.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Councilor Armstrong?
Here.
Councilor Dowdle?
Here.
Councilor Ensel?
Here.
All right, and it's at this time that we would like to encourage any public comments. However, I see no members of the public here, so I tend to think there will be no one coming forward, which will then lead us to consideration of an opportunity to talk with department representatives. I see Matt Miller out in the hallway, but since our clerk is here, Sylvia Parrott, do you have anything you'd like to apprise us of?
No, I don't really have. I have been updating the website, so all the local laws from 2008, or from, I believe, 1989, maybe not 89, maybe 1990, that's as far as we got. All the way up to 2018 are on there. My goal is to get all the laws on the website. I've also added a few applications for residents, so that they don't need to come to my office. Not that I'm not residents, all of them.
Of course.
To make it easier for them, especially to get the handicap application to the handicap placard. So they can
That
download
makes
it, bring it to
sense.
the doctor, so they can go to the doctor's office and ask the doctor to download it, fill it out right there, and then just bring it there and take it over to my office.
Well, thank you for those efforts. They're monumental on top of everything else you handle in your office. Any questions of the clerk? No? Thank you very much. And we see that Matt Miller is here, Director of the Office of Community Development. Do you have anything to report to us?
I did ask Amy Bond to join us this evening just to give the council a little detailed update about everything's going on with CFA applications.
Excellent. We would be very happy to hear that. Yeah.
Well, we've been working hard. We've got 3 CFAs that we're working on right now for the city. And when I say we, I mean I'm working with the city's AmeriCorps Vista member, Bree Miranda, who's just been invaluable through the whole process, and what a lovely addition to have to the city team in pulling these together. So just a quick overview of where we're at with the applications. We're working on a DOS grant, Department of State grant, with their local waterfront revitalization plan monies. And this is sort of a catch-all. We're calling it the DRI refinement. So we're taking a bunch of things that weren't funded in the original DRI. As you may recall, we applied for, we had put in a proposal for $15 million. We were funded for 10, so we scooped up some of that remaining $5 million and wrapped it into one application. So we're doing, we're requesting funding to update zoning. We are requesting funding to update our LRAP, to finalize it, sorry, not to update it. And then we are focusing on some mitigation issues around the water resource recovery facility, also known as the wastewater treatment plant.
Not anymore.
Right, the rough, right? So, and that total grant will be a $654,500 request, of which we'll be using matching funds from the DRI, from the dock street. The second grant that we're tying into that one will be a $750,000 request, again, for mitigation. This one will talk about the dewatering improvements, and if you need more details, call John Ruff. And that has no match for the grant. And let's see, and then we are doing the CDBG infrastructure. I'm sorry, that's the $750,000 request that has no match. The ESD grant, we're asking for $750,000, and for a total budget of $3,750,000. And that's for the dewatering improvements. The CDBG infrastructure grant is for the relocation of the nutrient building. So that'll be both odor and visual mitigation that we're doing. And because we have the DRI funds, there are no matches for these particular grants. We're able to recycle some DRI funding to come. The last one is a Main Street Anchor Grant program for the train station, and that would be doing some facade improvements and some interior redesigns on that. And the match for that comes from the Aaron Benner's nonprofit.
Wonderful.
And the resolutions will all come to you next week.
They will be on next week's agenda for your approval to submit the applications. I'll also have some detailed figures for you so you can take a look at what exactly the city's going to be on hook for and the grants we're applying to. And I also just wanted to make the council aware the initial contract that you had authorized the mayor to sign was for a total of $15,000. Given some of the additional engineering costs that are involved with some of these applications, I may ask you to increase that. I wouldn't expect it to be any more than an additional $5,000. But given the complexity of the engineering and some of the applications we're putting in, I think it's warranted given all the money that the city could be in store for this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Understandable. Okay. Thank you very much. I guess we can take care of the resolutions that will be on tonight's agenda as we go through them, if we have any questions about those. And then we'll, I hope, move the entire slate to the agenda. So starting with statement from the city clerk's office of all monies received during the month of May 2018 in the total amount of $9,251. 211.51 cents. Any questions? We got a readout from Ms. Parrott. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Any comments?
I just have a question about number 4.
Oh, I was just taking them in order, Peter.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're just on number 1.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, and then nothing there, so request from the Champlain Valley Morgan Horse Association to hold annual community flea market for Elmore SPCA on October 13th, 2018, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Do
at
we know what
Farmers
day of the
Market.
week that is? Is that
13th.
What?
of
It's a
October?
Saturday.
It's a Saturday, and the farmer's
After
market
the
will be
farmer's
closed by
After
then?
the farmer's market.
Okay.
Electricity and use of bathrooms is requested, $20 utility fee, and insurance will be required. Any comments? Questions? Okay. Request from Director of Community Development, Matthew Miller, that Economic Development Consultant contract for the Durkee Street project of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, DRI, be awarded to White plus Burke Real Estate Investment Advisors Incorporated. Payment for this contract will be made using funds included in the DRI. This award is made subject to the provisions of the request for proposals issued for the Durkee Street project and to the terms of the DRI grant. So just to begin with, I see that the scoring, and could you just give us some of the elements in the rubric?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, I could have given you a heads up.
Okay, so. So the rubric was broken down into 5 different categories. Each of them was rated by the review committee members on a score of 0 to 10. And the criteria were understanding of the scope of work, past performance of the firm on similar projects, the qualifications and experience of the proposed staff, the ability to meet schedules and budgets, and the extent of participation of MWBE firms.
Okay. So the scoring was pretty close, so they were
Yeah, it was
all pretty
close.
acceptable, huh?
Are you able to list who helped you with the scoring?
Yeah, the three
Thank you.
review committee members were myself, Ethan Benson, and Christopher Rosenquist.
Okay. And these people will be consultants, and can you just remind us of their job and effect?
Yeah, initially the Durkee Street RFP was explicitly for a development consultant. There weren't any additional aspects to the scope of the work. After the initial RFP received no responses, we went back to ESD. They went through their own review process, further discussions were held, and they eventually agreed to increase the scope of work of the RFP to include project management of the ultimate development.
Okay.
So the initial RFP was for a total budget of $100,000 max. With the additional scope of work, it was bumped up to $300,000.
Wow.
Once that addendum was issued, we received 3 proposals in response. One of the firms was in Burlington, that's Wayne Burke. One of them was out of Willsboro, and the third was out of Rochester. So we did the review committee, reviewed each one independently. I spoke to references of each of the applicants, and I'm comfortable in the selection of Wayne Burke.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
They have, and let me just ask, Whitenburg has pretty much equal experience in private and public sectors.
Yes, they've got a myriad of experience across the spectrum in terms of public-private partnerships or full private development.
Right. You had a chance to to review some of their previous projects.
And I've spoken to some of the previous towns that they worked for. So.
Okay.
I guess one of their fortes also is they seek public input or somehow evolve it into a project.
I'm sorry?
It's just something I read, how they evolve public input into the projects. That's kind of one of their strong points as
Yeah,
well.
and
Or one of their
considering-
marketing points, I should say.
Considering the strong public interest in Durkee Street, I felt that was a very
Good.
Yes.
good thing to have.
Yes, that's on the resume. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so number 4, request from Director of Community Development Matthew Miller that the design and implementation contract for marketing, branding, and signage strategy project to the DRI be awarded to Boyer Benner Group. Payment for the contract will be made using funds included in the DRI grant. This award is made subject to provisions of the request for proposals issued for the marketing, branding, and signage strategy project and to the terms of the DRI grant.
Yeah, my question is actually the question that Dale had asked, or I believe Colin, I take that back, Colin asked, who reviewed those
For the marketing brand.
marketing, right?
That was myself, again, Ethan Vinson, Christy Kennedy, and Alyssa Senecal, both from the Chamber of Commerce, who work in their tourism department, so.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, I'd like a motion to move these items for vote on our agenda tonight.
Can I?
Sure.
Before we do that, I did have one other question
Okay.
as well. Do we know what the terms are in the DRI grant for the marketing, and has that been predetermined yet, or?
We just sent in the master contract back to DOS for the marketing project a few days ago. I think it's the same standard terms as apply to the other DRI projects, but if there's anything specific you'd like me to research, I can certainly do that.
No, I was just curious as to if there's been an amount set yet for
Oh,
the
the
terms.
amount for the project? Yes, the total budget is $237,500.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So I'd like to move that the, is it okay for me to make the motion that these items be approved?
And Kretzer's not, Joshua Kretzer's not
Mhm.
here, so it would leave you and the mayor as the 2 remaining committee
Okay.
members. So I move.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, old business. I was going to ask how the hiring process is going for the city planner.
Okay.
Since if there were any updates since last week.
Yeah, we sent the application to civil service. There was currently no active planner position in the community development office, so we had to send in a new position duty sheet to basically reactivate it. Civil service is of course swamped, so there's always a little bit of delay in getting approval of new positions and things like that. But as soon as the MPDS is approved and the position is created and civil service signs off on our candidates, I would hope to have her ready for the consideration of council by next week.
Oh, that's great. And there was also a discussion of kind of an imminent appointment of an engineering aide. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes, but that will likely be in a different department.
What do you mean?
The engineering aid, I think it was DPW that we're looking at that for.
Currently, they're assigned to DPW.
Okay, all right.
We continue to recruit. We had talked to another good candidate just a couple of days ago.
Okay.
Is-
How about the parking study? And, I'm sorry, the parking plans that need to be moving along in order for Durkee Street to break ground?
Sure. Ethan and I went over to Burlington 2 weeks ago to have a discussion with the people who run their parking management system. It was extremely informative. There is a significant amount of work for us to do, but we're moving forward with plans on hiring a parking enforcement officer. We're also exploring different plans based on the recommendation of John Forster's study for the construction of new parking lots in the areas adjoining downtown to make up for some of the spaces taken over. It's going to be lost when Durkee is developed. But it's an ongoing process, and I'll certainly keep the council informed.
Sure. I remember, though, as a part of the study, the idea that a parking authority might be established first in order to kind of manage all of these things. And, I'm kind of trying to figure out a way to alleviate the burden of all this on your office. If that authority were to be established first, wouldn't that, in effect, take some of the bureaucratic
Sure.
mess out of your realm there?
And I'll give you what it was explained to me how it works in Burlington. They have a public advisory board for their parking system. It's all volunteers,
Okay.
People that are similar to management positions with the city. Members to the board are nominated by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. And they are responsible for the setting of rates and the setting of policy. So it's not a political discussion. It's based on practical
Right.
analytical
That's
research.
I remember that being.
resembles the model, I think, that John Forster.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Yep.
what we're looking at. Yep.
So is there a person hired for the parking authority?
There will certainly be people dedicated to management of the parking system. The way Burlington splits up responsibilities is the enforcement side of their parking system is all run out of their police department. The management side of it is all run out of their DPW department. Now, that certainly doesn't have to apply to Plattsburgh system as well, it's just how they do it.
Okay, thank you for that. And is there any other old business? New business? No? Well, I guess new in the sense that we had a big event here and everything went well, and really appreciate all the efforts of the office and particularly you, Tara.
Yeah, I'll second this.
Yes.
It really is incredible what she was able to pull together
Yeah.
in less than 5 weeks.
Yeah.
If I may, I would just like to say that all of our departments, DPW, MLD, police, fire, EMS, are absolutely extraordinary in my opinion. I could not be happier with the incredible work and support that they put in.
Right, that's absolutely true. Thank you very much, and once again, couldn't be happier that you're helping us carry on here.
I do have Mayor's Cup schedules for you,
Yes.
just a little reminder.
Okay, great. Any further business? Gee, I'm an efficient. Okay, so I guess I'll need a motion to adjourn. Okay, second?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Or do you roll call?
Roll call. You said roll call.
Roll
Mayor
call.
Reed?
Yes?
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes. Okay. Very good. Guess I have time to run out and get a drink of water before the hearing.
You do, and we'll have our regular work session after the 5 o'clock hearing. I
Right.
don't think there's any need for executive session.
Okay, all right.
I grabbed one, I'll take another one. Spread the word.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I said we could do some too.
What's that?
We could do some out there.
What's that? Right. Thought he had something on fire. I think just to get it started.
It doesn't start until 10 o'clock. It started early.
Well, no. Just like so we have the meetings about do the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, I've got some mortgage. I've got some mortgage. Strong.
My man.
No, it would have been, oh, was it? No, or no, it would have been, she was never friends with my siblings. So it was a big question.
Yeah.
Or no. She graduated. And I just go there.
No, I'm just saying that can be.
Most likely
Condition for reassessment.
Sure. What is it?
That's true.
we went to Canada. She gave it
What is it?
That's what I told her. Yeah. Well, we did smoke to turkey. We smoked to turkey earlier. They did it. We smoked it with like charcoal, that anything.
Yeah.
It was good. So we did that one. No, we actually, yeah, leave it and then. Yeah, so.
Carla.
What? I know, oh, I can turn it on now, but you have to turn it off. It's almost time. It'll cool, darn.
Feels good, doesn't it? We wouldn't know that.
And we have overflow, I have to shut the door because the sound leaks over. It's really good. What do you? Wow, very. No, not me. Yeah. Like, so you'd be like, expecting to hear something. Wow.
They want to maple.
You made it.
Hey there.
Did you take the ferry or did you have to swim to make it?
Water wing.
I took the air conditioner.
So we're going to begin a working.
Just let you know.
Use this then too. We're going to begin our working session tonight. We've got the air conditioner on, so for the benefit of Beth Carlin, our records keeper here, please speak loudly. I'm going to begin by yielding the gavel to councillors to conduct a local hearing. So please, Councillor Dowdle and Councillor Ensel.
Okay, if we could call to order the public hearing of July 5th, 2018. We'll note the time is 5 o'clock. The purpose of this meeting is to review a public hearing to hear public comment on local law P5 of 2018, a local law amending, renaming, and restating in its entirety Chapter 161, Article 3, Sections 14, 15 of the City Code of the City of Plattsburgh. If there are any persons intending to make a statement, would they come forward, please, to the mic?
Please.
Sure. Either way, go ahead.
Lil Cassidy for representing Animal Rescue and Welfare Services tonight. I'd like to request that the local ordinance remain as written a couple of years ago. And for a couple of reasons. It's very important for people to understand the meaning of feral before considering this ordinance for either the feeding or the health risk. By definition, a feral cat is a cat that does not trust. It doesn't trust humans, and probably for good reason. If they reside in a colony, they do not typically even trust newcomers and do not allow others to join the group. This is something we try to help people to understand when we're doing TNR work in the city and elsewhere. I would ask that you continue to let us work with TNR and removal of social cats and kittens from the street with the idea that the numbers will continue to go down. And if you receive complaints, refer them to us so that if there is something that we can do to help the situation by either spaying or neutering the animals or taking them if they're not truly feral, then it would resolve the situation. Referencing the feeding guidelines, again, with reference to feral cats, if people must be present when the cats are eating and remove all the food when they've stopped eating, what food is it that you want us to label and leave our name, address, and phone number? Because I'm not really sure that I want to leave my phone number out there for the world to see, so I guess I need clarification on that. These cats are not typically domesticated, so it's going to be a rare situation that you can have someone go and stand at a site and put food out and expect that if you call here kitty kitty, that you're going to get these feral cats to come and eat. They eat when they can be away from people. I feel like doing this will actually be equivalent to depriving them of food. Because if we go and we stand somewhere for an hour and the cats don't come out because we're there, and we have to pick the food up and leave, then there is no food for them. In terms of the health risk, again, I would ask that you think about these cats being feral. They're not going to initiate contact with people. So the risk for anything being communicated from cat to person is minimal and probably non-existent. If you are going to go home or go through with this, I'd like to recommend that you also remove bird feeders, because that's going to be the next problem. When you remove the food source for cats, they're going to look for another one. They're going to look for garbage cans that aren't covered. They're going to look for bird feeders, and then you're going to be getting calls from your constituents who are mad because they're killing the birds. I just really, really wish that you would reconsider and leave this as it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Carol Solari Rusco. I am the secretary on the board of directors for Elmore SPCA. And my feeling about this proposed policy is that limiting the feeding of community cats is a simple, unworkable idea to a very complex issue. Before making any policy, I really feel each and every one of you, if you haven't done it yet, need to educate yourself about this issue, because it is so complex, such as the causes of cat population in the city, overpopulation, the demographics of the colonies, the numbers in the colonies, what is presently being done by concerned citizens in managing those colonies. Being knowledgeable, I really feel, will help in coming up with an effective plan in managing community cats. And when I say community, I would like to just define that. I'm talking about feral and stray cats. They're put under this umbrella of community cats. They're basically unowned. That's what they are. However, there are stakeholder groups which need to be involved to make an effective plan. They should include local officials like you, Elmore SPCA like us, animal welfare organizations like Will's group, vets, and community members. We all have a stake in managing community cats and coming up with an effective plan. Nothing has been done to this date, to my knowledge. I may be wrong, feel free to correct me. There's plenty of money out there for spay-neuter programs. We need grant writers. We need people to write grants to places like PetSmart and PetGo, and we're members of those organizations. With help with grant writers, we could do things like that for you and bring in money, the resources that are needed to have an effective TNR program, to make sure these cats are vaccinated for rabies and distemper. We all have a task of being part of the solution, all of us. For example, vets could be asked to spay, neuter, and vaccinate cats at a greatly reduced charge. I don't think this is happening right now. I take cats, and they're not shelter cats. They are strays, ferals, owned cats to Vermont once a month, because there is a clinic, and it's a phenomenal clinic in Williston, that will spay and neuter, vaccinate for rabies, and a 1-year distemper for $65. You tell me one vet in our area that's going to do that. I think we'd be hard-pressed coming up with someone. So we are doing our part in that way. And I've taken a lot of ferals over to people. They weren't their cats. People dropped them off. They found their way into barns. They found their way into, but they wanted to do the right thing. They didn't want to euthanize the animals. They wanted to spay, neuter, and vaccinate, and return them to where they came from, whether it be a barn or somewhere else. As a working group, this coalition, Better Ways to Use Financial and Other Resources, volunteers, I really feel we're going to promote the health and welfare of community cats through TNR. Vaccinations and returning those cats to the appropriate colony or geographic area. The litters will stop. The colonies will reduce their numbers on their own. We don't have to do anything as humans. We're always putting our fingers where it doesn't belong, where they don't belong. And remember, the cats didn't create this situation, we did. Limiting food is not only inhumane, it's unenforceable. You cannot stop people from feeding cats that they have come to know, have come to love, and you can't do it. You can't enforce it. What are you going to do, have the police patrolling up and down the streets of Plattsburgh? looking to see if someone is feeding a cat or hasn't removed a bowl in a timely fashion. It's not gonna happen. We have to really be realistic about this. So that's what I have to say, and I would like to share something with you. It's called Managing Community Cats, a Guide for Municipal Leaders. May I make a suggestion humbly that you all get a copy and you all read it. There's a wealth of resources in the back. It's put out by the Humane Society of the United States, and it really gives some incredible insight about the issue, about what's been tried, what works, what doesn't work, and what we seem to be coming back to, it's TNR, TNR, TNR. So I will give this to you, Mayor.
I'll get that copied and circulated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello, my name is Rebecca, for those of you who don't know. I do manage Elmore SPCA, and I'm here in that capacity, but also as an animal advocate overall. I see a lot of your eyes deadening over, thinking, how is this gonna work out? Lil and Carol spoke very eloquently about this being a complex issue, and it is that. I'm excited that ARWS is going to be able to offer data to you folks so that you can see exactly what you're dealing with. And that data will enable you to make humane decisions as to how to move forward. And I am speaking about humanity, being humane towards our four-legged constituents, because they are indeed your constituents. These people who take care of these animals vote. These people who take care of these animals pay taxes. And even if they don't, they're a part of this community. And I think they're people that you should be proud of. They're people who put the things that they're not responsible for ahead of what maybe they should be. I know a lot of people who feed these animals, who do spend money spaying and neutering, and they spend their last dollar. These people are not college kids throwing money out the door, although some kids do. These people are not just elder citizens who have nothing better to do with their time. These are children, these are middle-aged people, these are caregivers, they're parents, they're children, they're everyone, and they're coming together and seeing that there's a problem. I'm here today to ask you to also see that there's a problem. I have been managing Elmore SPCA for almost 7 years. I refer people who call me, like they call Lil Cassidy at ARWS, like they call Denise Nephew in the city office, but it's all over Clinton County. They call me and say, what can I do? Some of them are avid animal lovers. Some of them don't care one whit for that cat as long as it stops ruining their stuff. Either way, this is a problem that only you folks can solve. I refer them to their municipal leaders, and their municipal leaders time and time again say, gosh, you know, there's nothing we can do. And I'm here today to tell you there is. Sorry, I'm not a good podium speaker. I'm a walker when I move, when I talk. There is. You folks have the biggest tool in your arsenal. You can create local laws. You can say, instead of creating by banning this food, this feeding, instead of creating bad will between police officers and these people, these citizens, instead of treating the situation like it's just something that's going to be taken care of if they're all gone. We need to say, how can we stop this from happening in the future? And the only way we can do that is through TNR and through responsible management of those colonies, through responsible actions, through our citizens. I understand the need to make people accountable, Mr. Dowdle. I understand that. I didn't before I started working in animal rescue. But you can't depend on everyone to do the right thing, and sometimes that governance is necessary, and that comes from you folks. I would love to sit down and speak with you. I'm sure Lil would too. I'm sure Focus on Ferals would love to sit down and speak with you. Speak with your lawyer. Speak with all of you to say, what can you do? What local laws can you come up with that can humanely manage these populations? What monies can we get from the county? What monies can we get from our local donor base? These people who are coming out here for this little thing. We can do the work, we can get it done, but we need to make sure people are not throwing out cats. We need to make sure that they're spay and neutered. And I, quite frankly, don't see a lot of dogs running around. You don't see a lot of random dogs dying in the streets. That's because there's local laws making people accountable. There's a registry for who's responsible for those people, whether it's a colony or an individual-owned cat. Microchipping is a beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen. We have the tools, let's use them. Let's help our constituents understand that they can help, they can do the right thing within guidelines, within your governance. And I hope that your governance is humane. The next thing I'd like to say, and I'll stop after that, is that cats are no longer feral. They're not considered a wildlife. You can't call a DEC officer and have a cat situation taken care of. Whether it's a feral, whether it's a wild, whether it's just a really mean tomcat, or whether it's the sweetest little cat that just got put outside, they are all considered property in New York State. And by you asking people who have already provided sustenance to these animals to stop giving that sustenance, you're essentially asking them to break the law according to New York State Agricultural Markets, Article 26. It's very important that you understand the scope of what you're dealing with so that we can do this within the scope of the law and within that scope of humanity that you all depend on from these people every day. So I'd love to sit down and talk to you folks. I mean, I'm available. Give me a call. And also, Lil's absolutely correct. If you stop feeding animals, they're not going to go away. You can't euthanize animals and make them go away. It creates a vacuum. And no matter what anyone says, it is an unenforceable law. There's no way. I can't sometimes get police officers to respond to true cruelty incidents because they're just so busy with the human component. Why would we waste our money on that? I'm also going to send you home with some homework from Alley Cats. This is a really great tool kit for you folks. And I'm really hoping that you take a look at it. If you have any questions, concerns, email me, talk to us. We're ready to talk to you. We hope you don't come to a decision before you get all the information. And I think that's about it. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vicki Chafee. I'm just a regular person that has lived here for 25 years. I have taken care of cats the whole time I've lived here. I work with Victoria St. John. And I want to plead with you not to starve them or get rid of them. I've had a number of cats that have come to me that have been hurt, that people have thrown out windows of their cars, have been injured, and stray or wild cats or feral cats, how do they become feral? People, they don't spay their cats, so they just let them have their cats under their house, and then the babies just are let loose, and that's how they become feral. It's a responsibility of the owners. And do we, starve these poor cats or shoot them or whatever? It's just not fair. It's not their fault. I think the owners need to have some responsibility. I lived on a street that every year this couple, they had cat and the cat had kittens and they just let them loose. And so, and I feel bad. I got brain injury by an accident in 2002. And in the paper, they made an article of this cat that I rescued that someone pushed out of a car window. And she had brain injury too. And I couldn't walk. And I took care of her. She was blind, she couldn't walk. And she taught me how to walk again by leaning against the walls. And she helped me. And so they wrote an article, and I'll leave it with you. But the cats, we don't want to kill them. They all are a blessing to us, one way or another. And it's not their fault that these owners, you know, are unresponsible. Don't kill them, or, you know, please, I plead with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Stacy Lambrinos, and I've been working as a spay and neuter veterinarian for 10 years in this area, and I just feel that we need to address the bigger issue than to feed or not to feed the cats, and that is dealing with the overpopulation issue. The only proven and effective humane method of dealing with this situation is the trap, neuter, return, or rehome the socialized cats and kittens. Ignoring and starving the cats is not a humane method of dealing with this. I feel I would be able to make a huge impact on this issue if there was more support available from the city. It is a misconception to believe that eliminating the cat colonies will solve the problem because of the vacuum effect that Rebecca mentioned. I also wanted to add that I have been offering my services at a greatly discounted rate for any unowned and shelter cats. Please consider this information when deciding the future of the cats in the city. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh.
Hi, Holly Hager Drexler. I have a little bit different side of the story. I'm a cat lover, but they have put shelters up near my home, and over the last, I would say, 4 years, watching the population grow exponentially and watching skunks feed where the food's been dropped, that I no longer walk in that direction to walk out into the woods on the trails for fear of rabies and other things. The dog I used to own was attacked by a cat down there, so I'm kind of frightened by it. We've had cats deliver kittens under our porches, cat fights outside at night that keep you awake, cats spraying on your house. I just want everyone to know the other side of the story, and yes, I do believe it's a problem for all of us. I don't know how to solve it. Yep, we all need to sit down and talk about it. But the more cats that keep getting dumped there, I remember the first night when I was walking in the evening, 2 cats were down at the end of my street. And now there's like 3 shelters set up, and more cats, and people know where it is, so people bring their cats and dump their cats. I don't know, if we're gonna do that, do we need to have a camera so we can catch people and find them or make them financially responsible? I don't know. But I know once you start feeding the cats, they become used to that, and then they don't know how to fend for themselves, catching mice and being cats out in the wild. I don't know what the answer is. When I was a child, and all of you here are too young to know this, but they caught pigeons downtown Plattsburgh when I was a child, where the post office used to be across my father's business on downtown Market Street. And they were catching the pigeons, and I don't remember what they were doing with them, but we had a pigeon problem that they were dealing with. And this is sort of a similar thing. I don't know how we're gonna deal with it. We shouldn't have, in my opinion, started feeding them and putting housing for them. It just made it accessible for everybody, in that we're giving it the stamp of approval that it's okay. And for whoever put that there, I don't know whose property it is. Is it the city? Did people have permission to put it there? Because nobody knocked on my door and said, do you mind if we put this in your backyard? Things that I've seen for cats in the wintertime, losing ears, losing tails. Cats, for lack of anything different to say, it was like gang rape watching 3 cats go after another cat. It was horrifying to see, attacking this cat. I don't know what the answer is, and I've said that, and I'm like all of us, none of us know what the answer is. Yeah, we have to work together to figure this out, but for however that got put up there, why isn't it in that person's backyard instead of my backyard? That's just the other side point of view. popular one based on everybody's opinion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Rebecca Kane, Monty Street. First, I love cats. I deal with cats all day long, part of my profession, and I do feel a lot of goodwill toward these people that have all this compassion to take care of cats. When I read this law that you're proposing, you're not telling them they can't feed cats, you're telling them they have to take responsibility for doing it. And they're here now doing that. They're here taking responsibility, saying, I love cats, I'm feeding cats, and I don't see that there's a huge difference between what the law is asking them to do and what they're doing here right now, tonight. I don't think this is going to solve the problem. Feeding bans have never solved overpopulation cat problems, but I do think it might be a good way to start getting people prepared for the fact that cats they need people, they need to be around people. And Rebecca talked about microchipping. There are hundreds of cities around the United States that require people to license their cats. Rhode Island, the whole state requires cat licensing. I've talked with people in the agri markets department here, and it is legal for municipalities and cities and towns to require licensing for cats. Maybe that's what needs to be done, is people need to be taking responsibility for the cats that they're caring for, and this may be a first step toward that. Keeping people from dumping cats. Rebecca talked about that. I know all the humane societies are overwhelmed with cats. So being able to say, well, this cat is new to a colony, where did it come from? Microchip it, oh, so-and-so dropped it off, and being able to tell people that cats are our responsibility and that we need to care for them. So I have no objection to the law. Like I said, I think that you're not telling people not to feed them, you're just asking them to take responsibility for it, and I don't think that that's a bad thing when you're dealing with cat problems.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. King.
Thanks.
We'll take one more speaker. We have about 3 minutes left till our work session begins at 5:30. Hello.
This will be much less than 3 minutes. I'm Ann Tracy, 12 Adams Street, not affiliated with anything pertinent. I wanted merely to say that I'm one of those people who can't possibly resist feeding anything that's hungry. And the difficulty with this law, one of the difficulties of this law, I think, is that a law that goes counter to conscience has perhaps to be a bad law and not a very successful one. And you know, what are you gonna do? You'll catch me feeding something that's wandered by. Well, you can put me in jail. It's not gonna look really good, you know, respectable old lady here feeding somebody. You should think very hard, please, before you make the ordinance about whether you are asking people to do something that's seriously against their conscience. I think you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I was slow getting up. Can I have 1 minute?
Councilor
I'm
Dodd?
old and decrepit.
Would you like to speak from there, sir?
I'm allowed up, sir?
Would you like to speak from
Yes,
there?
please.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
My name is Don Cassidy. I'm retired Air Force, 1968. I'm retired from Plattsburgh State College, where I was the first field house manager in 1976. I walked through that door and never knew I was going to stand up here. I'm being Irish, I can't keep my mouth shut, right, Mike? What I'm saying is, the animals, I had a little bit of trouble speaking. The animal people, welfare people, last year and this year, sent out 500 cats to homes. 500 cats were adopted in a year and a half, which means 500 cats were not roaming around our area, and the female cats were not reproducing. What harm is it to feed a cat? They get these cats because people, kind people, find the cat, they feed them, wait a couple of days, they still come back, so they call the animal people. Hey, we got a stray cat down here eating. Okay, we'll be down. Next day they come down with a trap to try and get that cat. The first time it doesn't succeed, back again. The next time it doesn't succeed, back again until it gets that cat. And that's how it works. I want you to take away the privilege of feeding cats. They're not going to come to get fed. These people are not going to call anybody. The cat population is going to zoom up. It's going to be worse than this today. As I said, because of these people, there's 500 less cats roaming the streets today. And I thank you for listening to me and giving me the additional time. That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, being 5:30, I'll call the meeting to an end. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Let's begin the council meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed.
Present.
Counselor Armstrong.
Here.
Counselor Kelly.
Here.
Counselor Dowdle.
Here.
Counselor Renzel.
Here.
Counselor McFarland.
Present.
Counselor Kretzer.
I'd like to make just a couple of comments. This is my opportunity to, first of all, very briefly extend all my appreciation for all the people in the city that helped make 4th of July a success yesterday. You know, the beach was packed, was fully staffed, the downtown was packed, and a lot of people enjoyed 4 different bands that played during the day. The vendors did well, the parade was record-breaking, the sponsors were happy, Dr. Klaus did a great job with the fireworks. But a lot of people on behalf of the city took their day off with their family to come and help make it a really pleasant day for many other families. I really appreciate that. On a less optimistic note, I was discouraged by the local law that we'll be considering this evening. I do agree with some of the comments that to come up with simplistic solutions to complex problems usually don't work out well. I think that there are more creative solutions that we can come to bear rather than creating a cat and critter feeding cop. I wonder why we're going after some of the most wonderful do-gooders in our community, but there's very little mention of the people that behave irresponsibly in the first place to create this problem. So I think some of this effort is being misplaced. I think if we truly collaborate with many of the people who came to speak today, and many of the people that have written to us in the council over the last couple of weeks with really novel solutions. For instance, I think you all received correspondences from AJ Albrecht. She represents the Best Friends organization, a national organization that's dealing with this all over the country. She felt there's better policies, and I asked her to share a model ordinance that's working in other communities, and she did, and I'll share that with you. But I also asked her, well, what about permitting systems? She says that's a great idea. What about tagging? That's a great idea. Let's go after the people that are causing the problems, not the do-gooders that are just simply being humane. So I think if we do sit down and collaborate, we can do so in a much more productive manner. And as you know, I think there's some really looming big problems facing our council. I don't want this one to be a distraction from the real big looming problems, because I think we can solve this problem with a bit of collaboration and a bit of inclusion, and I, for one, am going to advocate for that today. So I very much appreciate many of your comments. I know all you're trying to do is help. None of us are trying to marginalize or minimize the problem here. We're all just going to be looking for a solution. So I thank you for your comments tonight and the fact that you are good Samaritans. The last thing I want to do is have our police or our code enforcement officers devoting their attention to this issue when there's so many other looming problems that we know we need to address. So I'm confident that the council will do the right thing to come up with some more workable policies, and thank you for your collaboration. That's my comments for tonight.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on June 28, 2018 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Councillor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending July 4th, 2018 in the amount of $454,869 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. In your packets were a number of reports issued. For any oral reports, let's begin with governance strategy and city operations. Representing Councillor Kretzer is Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, well, we pretty much stuck to the agenda and moved everything forward. There were no pressing issues that arose from the discussion. We heard a good report from Director Miller about not only the projects that are on the agenda, but others, including the parking plans and the update on filling positions for the planner and engineering aid, which I understand is now going to be under the auspices of DPW.
At least it's temporarily.
Right, okay. So that's about it.
City Infrastructure, Councilor Ansel.
We will be meeting next week, our monthly meeting, and for all the department heads, please get me any requests, and also send them on to Sylvia next week, because she will be putting together the agenda.
Thank you. Finance and Budget, Councilor Kelly.
I'm going to ask Councilor Insel if he will meet with me next week to discuss the agenda for our next meeting, which will be the week after his meeting. And also, with your permission, Mayor, we'll include Richard Marks.
Certainly.
We'd like to talk a little more about budget, and this is a very important time of year because we're halfway through the fiscal year, and it's a good time to assess where we stand. And so we want to have a good presentation for the council for the July meeting.
Thank you. And I shared with you an email earlier today that I sent with him to try to get that process going.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Public Safety, Councilor Dowdle.
We met last Thursday on the 28th. At that time, discussion surrounded the building inspector's free report that was provided to the council. We had a report from the Parking Violations Bureau for May 2018. We discussed overtime expenses with the police chief and fire chief, overtime budget expenses to date, and anticipated budget monies for the remaining year. And there was also some slight discussion about the use of sidewalks for mobility purposes rather than the hedge law, snow removal, or for parking enforcement.
Thank you. Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
No updates.
And MLD, Councilor McFarland.
Yes, we had our meeting last week, and it was actually before the council meeting. I have no updates since then, although I would like to take the time and reiterate what the mayor said. I had the personal opportunity to attend the 4th of July Day Parade yesterday and the 4th of July fireworks, and I thought both were spectacular, very well put on. I extend my congratulations and thanks to everyone involved in that, especially our events coordinator, Tara Powers, did an excellent job, and I'm excited to see how everything works out for Mayor's Cup.
Thank you very much. And there is an itinerary for Mayor's Cup. Please consult it. You can see it on our website. She had 4 bands that performed yesterday. I think it's going to be another 7 or 8 bands right up to July 8th. She had 60 floats last day. I think that was a record. And she did just a fabulous job, and we understand the time frame she had to do it in, so I can't say enough for her, but also for the whole team of people that she assembled. You know, Chief Ritter and Chief Lawless assisted, and I think you had three people that were suffering from heat stroke at various times yesterday. A couple of disorderly conduct that they had to deal with, where they were right on top of everything. Ethan was there starting the parade for us. Everybody really rallied, and I've never seen more green fluorescent shirted individuals from DPW all in one place, really helping out. So it really did take a team, and I appreciate your appreciation for it. Resolved, the reports are listed are hereby order received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passed. There's no correspondences or recommendations for boards at this time.
Resolved that the bills ordered by the Common Council for the week ending July 6, 2018 in the amount of $122,166.97 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passed. This is an opportunity for anybody in the public to please come address the council on any items that are on the agenda tonight. And there will be another opportunity to address the council on other issues of mutual concern, but we reserve just agenda items at this point.
Denise Nephew, Smith Street. I want to ditto everything my animal group sent to you tonight. I'm asking you to withdraw this local law for now. Work with animal rescue. You see the experts. You listen to Rebecca at Elmore's. I would like to see a list of complaints that were given for the people that are having trouble with feral cats or whatever. For sure, we can contact them like we did with Councilor Ensel's problem. Lil and I personally took an interest in Councilor Ensel's problem with the cats, personally. And we were able, I would like to think, to make a difference. Secondly, New York State agricultural law. Are you violating this with this? You certainly don't want to do that. Third, I do wish if there was complaints, you call us. Let us work with you. That's what we do. We're a volunteer group. Please, I can give you animal rescue cards. I've left one in the building inspector. Excuse me, I can leave one with Beth. You can have my email. Please contact us. Let us help you. This is what we do. Last year, I gave you guys information on alley cat alleys. And if you don't have it, I don't know if some of you still have it, I can certainly get it to you. They again report that not feeding them will make matters worse. Please, I can get you the information. What bothers me the most about this, please withdraw this for the most part due to the fact that you already have departments that are overloaded with items and laws and codes that they have to take care of. I mean, who's going to do this? I mean, I can't imagine they just can't take on anymore. Again, let our group do this. Instead of proposing a local law, put the burden on us to help us. You saw the experts, they're here. And Chisholm, I certainly wish when we were here a month ago, May 31st, you would have talked to us about this. Why didn't you talk to us? We were right here 5 weeks ago. Why didn't you say something? Please let us help. Withdraw this. There's certainly, we don't have any trouble knocking on doors, educating people. It's all about the cats, and we certainly want, you know, everybody not to be upset, like this lady that addressed you earlier. I don't know what where she is. I don't think I've heard of that one. We could certainly help. Again, reach out. The experts are here, and these ladies, they know. And one last thing I want to tell you, TNR does work. Miss Cassidy did say there used to be 33 cats at the Newman Center. They're down to 16. Now that's monumental. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to come address the council on issues on the agenda tonight?
Sue Moore. I want to do everything that I've heard also, and I fully understand the one person that did get up to explain the problem. I get it, you know. I understand her point of view. But I hope you guys will educate yourself much better than I think you are right now to vote on this, so I hope you put it off, you know, vote it down or whatever and start over again, but you should meet with these people and educate yourself before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Dan Ruger, 9 Main Road. By the way, I think you're a well-educated group. For the record, I love domestic cats. I love that owners take full responsibility for them. I recognize the limitations in enforcing what's been said, but I do also recognize it's a start. On behalf of the silent majority that didn't show up tonight, I have heard many of the complaints, okay? Now, I'm not gonna tell you which way to think, which way to go. I like to solve problems and mediate, so I listen. I learned something about the benevolent organizations, and they connotated something. That part of their goals and plans was to reduce, and I guess in theory, like radioactive decay, someday we're gonna reach zero. They connotated to me that that was the goal. Okay, that's a benevolent goal. That wins for everybody. I'm not sure of the enumeration. I'm not sure what the number is. What was just said, 30 to 60 is not a reduction. I don't understand this concept of the vacuum break that they're talking about. But I do see an inconsistency between what's happening and what I believe is one of their goals. So I don't know what the answer is. And I'm not against cat lovers. But if you need to hear more about the cat complainers, it's not getting to you. I've heard a lot of them, and they're legit. So what I did hear tonight that was encouraging is, let me know about them. We'll fix it. I didn't know about that resource, okay? So, I encourage you, with your community partners, if there's people who are gonna step up to the plate and fix the complaint, well, let's put them to work, okay? Now, if you're gonna love something and you've set goals to reduce and get rid of it, by the way, my goal would be to reduce the welfare rolls down to zero if we could, okay? But it's a theoretical limit that you gotta be going for. So where's the enumeration? Where are you meeting your own goals, okay? The idea of permitting, that's just a lot more work in government and whatnot. But if it's the only solution, hurry up and get it going. And if you're worried about the money, charge the cat lovers who love their domestic cats that they take full responsibility for. Thank you. Stay cool.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, Dan.
Any other individuals, please?
In response, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
In response.
Is this appropriate or no?
No, we don't have,
Sorry, no dialogue.
I read the rules.
In response, can I tell you?
You've spoken once, so maybe just briefly, if you have any additional comments, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had 50 cats that I rescued over the 25 years I've worked. They just came to my house, they were hurt, and I trapped them. They walked in my house through the pet door, whatever. I took them to the vet, I had them neutered, every one of them, had the shots, and I found homes for them. So, you know, we are responsible people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, let's continue, please.
Adoption of local law P-5 of 2018. Resolved, a local law amending, renaming, and restating in its entirety Chapter 161, Article 3, Sections 14-15 of the City Code of the City of Plattsburgh. Introduced by Councilor Dowdell on June 21st, 2018 at a regular meeting of the Common Council, public hearing held on Thursday, July 5th, 2018 at 5 p.m. in the Common Council Chambers, 41 City Hall Place, Plattsburgh, New York. Be it enacted by the Common Council of the City of Plattsburgh as follows. The title of Chapter 161, Article 3 of the City Code of the City of Plattsburgh shall be amended and restated as pigeons, feral cats, and other animals. City Code Section 161-14 is amended and restated as follows. Nuisance declared. The unnatural presence of pigeons, feral cats, and other wild animals, including but not limited to raccoons, deer, skunk, opossums, coyotes, birds, squirrels, or fox in the city of Plattsburgh, New York, is hereby declared to be a public nuisance, the same being a menace to the health of the community. City Code Section 161-15 is amended and restated as follows. Harboring, keeping, or feeding pigeons, feral cats, and other animals unlawful. No person, firm, corporation, or association shall intentionally feed, harbor, or keep any pigeons, feral cats, and other wild animals, including but not limited to raccoons, deer, skunk, opossums, coyotes, birds,
squirrels, or fox within the city of Plattsburgh, New York. This section does not apply to bird feeders. Notwithstanding the foregoing, a person, firm, corporation, or association may provide food to feral cats under the following conditions. All food must be provided in a labeled container which states the name, address, and phone number of the person, firm, corporation, or association providing the food. A person providing the food must be present when the food is made available to the feral cats, and any remaining food must be removed when a person is not present. City Code Section 161-16, penalties for offense shall remain unchanged. This local law shall take effect immediately upon approval by mayor and filing with the New York Secretary of State, the entire text of which has been distributed to and read by the members of the Common Council, is hereby enacted without the reading thereof, and a copy of said local law is made part of the minutes of this meeting.
Moved by Councilor Ensel, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion.
Yeah, I just have a few things I'd like to say. I'm an animal lover. I'm a pet lover. I've had dogs. I've had cats, guinea pigs. My daughter has a chinchilla, so it's not an issue about animals. And Denise, I do thank you for the work that you and Lil did. It reduced the number of cats, but unfortunately, it hasn't eradicated the problem. There's still a huge problem.
It's not.
Excuse me. This is not an issue of cats. It's an issue of quality of life for the residents in the city of Plattsburgh. I've had neighbors that have had to pay thousands of dollars in expenses to put up fences to try to keep cats off their property. Skunk issues permeate the neighborhood. I've had neighbors try to sell their home, but to no avail because of the issue. Feline urine is, the smell of ammonia is unbearable at times because the cats are using the decorative mulch in the neighborhood as a litter box. Cat feces all over lawns and gardens. I have a great respect for the work that you and Lil and the rest of your group has done, but unfortunately it doesn't take care of the problem. Yes, you capture and kittens, return them to have them spayed and neutered, maybe adopted. Adult cats are returned, but again, that doesn't take care of the problem, because if they're not adoptable, then they have to be returned to where they're captured. This still sends them loose on neighboring properties. Rebecca Berto spoke of the taxpayers. Well, what about the taxpayers that are impacted by these nuisance animals? And I'm not just talking about feral cats, I'm talking about skunks, possums, and so on. Mr. Ruger spoke about the silent majority. They are out there. I guess again, I return to the quality of life issue, and I maybe this isn't an ideal plan, but I think it's a start, as Mr. Ruger said. It's something that we can work on and build from. And I say a vote against this legislation is a vote against improving the quality of life for the city residents. Thank you.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes, well, I do recognize several faces that remain with us tonight that were here maybe 4 years ago when the topic of feeding nuisance animals came up. Feral cats was then put in, then it came out, so here we are talking again. So it helps to know a little bit of history before you know where you're going. Really, it's two factors that's at issue. It's the skunk population that's growing in the city of Plattsburgh. I think two sources are garbage cans, overflowing particularly in the center city, and the feeding cat stations. The mayor has indicated publicly that there is a new program with the building inspector's office where things are going to be categories 4, 3, 2, 1. So I think the garbage issue hopefully will be taken care of, particularly in the center city where most of the complaints are received. The other is the feeding of the feral cats. This certainly is not a new topic. It's resurfaced partly due to the rapid growing increase in the city's skunk population as well as other nuisance animals that are being attracted to the areas of cat feeding stations. On April 26, a group of residents spoke to this council about their neighborhood involving the feeding of multiple cats, which once numbered in the 60s at one particular residence, and as a result, the growing number of skunks being directed to their neighborhood. There is not a garbage issue in that neighborhood. As a result of these most recent concerns, and many from the past, I did collaborate and spoke with the Clinton County Environmental and Health Safety Division, where I have previously obtained the nuisance complaint information form and have distributed them to constituents not only in my ward but in other wards as well. Many recent contacts have led me, and they gave me the referral to the New York State Public Health Law, Article 21, Title 4, indicating rabies. Rabies. It's lengthy, and I'll just need to touch on the definitions. Number 5, certificate of immunization shall mean a signed statement issued by the veterinarian containing the following information: name and address of the cat owner or animal owner. Owner means any person keeping, harboring, or having charge or control of, or permitting any dog, cat, or domesticated ferret to remain or lodged within the person's house, yard, or premises. As a council, we have sat here and expressed many of our concerns regarding the health and public safety in our city. We have talked about designated bike lanes, concern for those conducting street drives, marches, walks, gatherings on our streets and sidewalks. These are all public health and safety concerns. Clearing sidewalks of snow, ice, and vegetation overgrowth. Crossing guards are part of our program. Most recently, the Bitcoin issue was based upon public safety. We've also done promotion of walking and recreational facilities. Zoonotic, which is rabies, bacterial, fungal, and parasitic diseases are real concerns. Consideration now must be given not only to wildlife, but to the continued health, safety, and well-being of our citizens who encounter these animals, as well as their waste. Mr. Ruger spoke. He did not speak on behalf of his profession, but he is a public health inspector. Most recently, since this was proposed, I've been told about a daycare center that is located next to a residence that harbors approximately 30 cats, and the cats use the playground to deposit their waste. When a couple parents confronted the owner, she said, "It's yours to clean up." Lynn Street, an individual has contacted me about a backyard neighbor on Oak Street that simply throws garbage on the backyard to feed feral cats. When this individual confronted this person, her indication is, "I can feed the feral cats, there's nothing against it." I've had a constituent on Draper Avenue who was unable to use her porch due to allergies, cat damage, quality of life. We refer to the Tom Miller incident. Center City, where there is multiple skunks. One individual I recently talked to this week, she indicated she traps the skunks herself and then hires to have them taken away. And when the traps are returned, she most recently had multiple skunks. Yes, she says garbage, but yes, she says her neighbor's backyard is completely full of food for nuisance animals. The city of Brunswick, Maine today, where I have had several family members and friends, issued a robotic call to all of its citizens due to a rabies outbreak amongst its fox population. They have dealt with multiple feeding issues in that particular locality.
Where was that?
upon
I'm
that.
sorry.
Brunswick, Maine. It has grown to this. I have seen many fox in the city of Plattsburgh during the daytime. The idea of tonight's proposal is essentially an active monitored feeding system. It does not ban the feeding of feral cats, but actually allows an exception to their feeding by requiring feeding areas to be monitored, food supplies labeled, and food removed when oversight of feeding is not available. While there is no single solution to these concerns, I believe this takes us in the right direction. There is also indications you can contact your county legislator as well as the state assembly, since there are public health laws pertaining to these issues. Thank you. Oh, and I would like to add, I have spoken to somebody. Have you spoken to lawyers? Yes. Council helped me craft this as well. I'm not going after do-gooders by any stretch of the imagination. We have heard from the experts, many of them, Dr. King being one of them. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say that, you know, all of the advocacy that was represented tonight was really moving. The dedication, the hard work, the concern, just really inspirational. However, I should say that there's a great deal more that I can personally learn about additional solutions. The idea of licensing cats, registering cats, microchipping cats, I think, you know, we could even revisit our approach to licensing dogs to achieve a better level of control and protection, really, for these animals. The argument that we need to require those people who have abandoned cats to be responsible is really a compelling argument. I think, you know, that speaks to me. It speaks to me. You know, I'm going to rely upon someone I respect who says that this is a way of reducing the amount of feeding that goes on in the city. And that even by doing that, you shift the feeding to a more controlled method, which would be to service the cat colonies. The issue that Lil Cassidy brought up about whether or not cats will actually take this food if one is standing there or whatever, I mean, that gives me pause. However, where do we begin? Where do we begin? Something has to be done to address the health hazards that I've not only heard from my colleagues, but from my well-respected source, Rebecca King, when she first spoke to us about this issue 4 years ago. So, it's a step. I think other steps need to be taken. And I would believe that with some further collaboration and attention, we can get closer to a more viable solution. I don't know if I've made my vote evident or not by my comments. I'm actually just trying to work out in my mind, you know, what the right solution is. You know, maybe, I don't know how the rest of you feel. Perhaps we should take some time and include other solutions if we're going to take this step.
I would agree with that, Rochelle. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No.
like I said earlier, this is a first step to help, and then I think we take it from here.
Okay,
and I
so
think
you're
I think it
advocating-
would be the public service or public safety committee's action at this point to move on with possibly microchipping, or licensing,
Right.
whatever. But I think this is the initial first step that should be taken.
But I do feel as though I'm not certain of the cautions that have been presented to me. You know, some of the terminology, vacuums, and so forth. You know, I want to be humane. I want to be practical. I feel like I could be better educated. I'm personally kind of on the fence and need more information. So perhaps if we table and find a way to discuss this at our next Public Safety Committee, introduce other options for the control of the problem, I could feel more satisfied and equipped to vote conscientiously. I don't know. I think I wavered back and forth, but that's my mind at work.
You want to table it?
That's what I'm thinking. I can't conscientiously take in the information I've been presented tonight, some of the comments from people. And what do you think?
Well, there's some of the wording in this law that I don't like, and that is the unnatural presence of pigeons, feral cats, and other wild animals. To say that that is unnatural is not natural. The fact that we have pigeons, feral cats, wild animals, raccoons, deer, skunk, opossums, coyotes, birds, squirrels, and fox in the city of Plattsburgh is Mother Nature is doing exactly what she knows how so well to do, and that is to preserve life. Preserve life. And the people who are feeding the cats, I think, also have a strong desire to preserve life. They love these animals, it's easy to tell. And in, 1,000 years, will it turn out that humankind was benefited by what they did, or will it turn out that humankind was harmed by what they did? And I want to believe that it will turn out that humankind was benefited by what they did because of the love and compassion that they show these animals. You mentioned, Rochelle, the vacuum, and I'll tell you a good example of a vacuum. We're all up in arms about skunks, and frankly, I don't like them either. But when you take away the skunks, you invite grubs into your yard, and then you have lawn problems. That's just one simple, very easy, understandable example of what can happen when something is removed from nature. She will fill that void. You can be sure of that. What she will do to fill that void, we don't know. I would like to rely on studies maybe that other people have done. What happens when feral cats are no longer fed? What kind of forces then impinge on a community? We don't really know that, and I'd like to know that. I'd like to know, for example, why is it that people want to abandon cats? It's almost like a breakdown in our society that people feel okay about abandoning helpless animals. I read the philosopher's statement once. I wish I could remember his name so I could refer you to it. But he said that the measure of society is how it treats its animals. Okay? If you look at what this human race does to animals, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. And I don't even know if we deserve to be on this planet, to tell you the truth. Because we butcher animals to eat them. We're very unkind about that. We don't gauge their feelings or talk to them before we slaughter them. We slaughter them en masse in factories. And this is just an example of that. People feel okay about having animals born under their supervision, and then they go, maybe not. And then the poor animals are left to fend for themselves. And here are these wonderful people in our community who are saying, we'll take care of them. Society is messed up. Messed up. People have messed up. We'll try to fix that. And God bless you for doing that. God bless you.
Can I just ask a question?
Not traditionally in this part of the meeting. I'm sorry.
There's public comment at the end.
So, with that said, I think I would like to go with the people who seem to be in the know, the people who are reading the science on this and who are acting therefore, and those are the trap, neuter, release people. They have the day as far as I'm concerned. They rule the day. They presented evidence to us that their methods work.
Well, and Mike, I'm going to disagree with you there that their method works. It does work as far as cats that are adoptable. Cats that they don't deem adoptable are returned back to the site that they took them from. Therefore, there still becomes a quality of life issue for the neighborhood.
Regardless of the anecdotal evidence, I think the scientific evidence says that it works.
Yeah, I mean, it does, yeah, you have fewer cats, but
reducing cat population.
You're reducing cats, but you're still creating a nuisance for neighbors.
I'd like to add just a couple of comments. First of all, you hear me speak often about the sustainability of the city. We don't really focus on the big issues for the city that our taxpayers are really concerned about. It's going to be perfectly natural to see a lot more pigeons and feral cats and coyotes and foxes around because we're not going to exist as a city. We need to be worrying about the bigger problems. We need to solicit the help of the community. I don't see how we're soliciting the help of the community by passing this tonight and disrespecting them, and then we ask them, now come and help us solve the problem when we just finished saying, but we're not going to listen to you now. We know best. but you can help us in other ways. We have to fully embrace their comments. I think they had a lot of great suggestions. They proposed a licensing system. They proposed using that to fund RFID tags in these animals so we can trace who the irresponsible owners are. They proposed doing all this work for us. Why would we be arrogantly trying to pass something that they don't think is a good policy without listening to them because we know better, and then we're going to go back to them and ask them, well, geez, what do you think? How can you help us out? I'd be surprised if they wanted to help us out after we pass this tonight. Why don't we just sit down and listen, collaborate, get the best examples of what works around the country. None of this is going to be perfect, but there's an awful lot of energy in this room that wants to help us out, and I think we need to listen. And then we need to get back to the really serious problems on the survivability of our city, so the area isn't overrun by foxes and possums and coyotes and no people 30 or 40 or 50 years from now.
I would just like to comment on the law of November 12th of 2015. Before that, the law stated pigeons and other wild animals. We then amended it to the unnatural presence of pigeons and other wild animals, including but not limited to raccoons, deer, skunks, opossums, coyote, bird, squirrel, or fox, and declared it to be a public nuisance, and the same being a nuisance to the health of the committee. So the only new wordage is feral cats.
Dean, what's the penalty under 161-16?
Can't quote it spelled out in the code. It's I believe it's a ticket, a civil enforcement with a $250 fine. Can't quote it chapter and verse, so you just pull it pretty readily. I would also like to clarify too one point, just to jump on the podium. There is no definition of being present. That was raised as an objection. Just to go to the legislative intent, the analogous situation was ice fishing tip-ups. So in that scenario, you need to be able to be monitored, but it doesn't require direct proximity, that you're not standing over the object, but rather you're able to be responsive and remove the object after the cats are feeding.
Now, what is there a definition for feral cats? Because that's something that came up with our first two speakers, that there's a different definition of feral, and then there's stray cats, and I believe our second speaker referred to them as community cats in general, which included feral cats and stray cats. I suppose there's also people's pets that are currently out of the house but will still return to that home eventually. Do we have a definition of what feral cats mean?
There's no definition included in this local law. There's a common plain language definition, which is basically an unsocialized animal that doesn't have an owner.
So for me, it definitely seems that all the speakers here really underline the fact that there is a huge problem. Peter underlined a problem. Even Lil was here about 5 weeks ago asking for $3,000 because she recognized it was a big problem and they were having a hard time handling it all. And I do hope that eventually we'll be able to get funding her way as far as that goes. I do think the most poignant thing I heard, as Mr. Mayor and Mike touched upon it, when this law came about, I was doing some research in between after getting a lot of emails and input from the community. And one article I read from National Geographic was indicating that no matter which route you go in trying to solve this problem, the number one thing that's most successful is working with the people that are invested in this problem, and working with the people that care. And that seems to be, in that article underlined, that those people tend to be the people that are feeding the cats. They're the ones that recognize there's a problem, and whether they're misguided or not, they're the ones that are invested in this problem. And we had a gentleman who was part of the Air Force in 1968 who I think underlined that point pretty fantastically when he said it was the people that were feeding the cats that were the ones calling into these programs and saying that you need to come pick up these cats because they're coming and they're feeding, and then after one or two times that the people actually do come down, they capture the cats, they neuter them, and then they vaccinate them and release. And I do think that trap, neuter, and release does alleviate the problem somewhat. Yes, if the cats don't get adopted, they do return them to the public space where they pick them up. but at least they're sterilized and not adding to the problem later. And in the long run, if you sterilize all these cats, they shouldn't be reproducing and exacerbating the problem exponentially. But it's clear that we certainly have a problem. That what that woman described was absolutely insane. And honestly, what Dale described was a very good argument for this law. If there's a woman that's throwing trash in her backyard, and when confronted by her neighbors, concerned citizens, about the impact that's having on the neighborhood, the woman was like, oh, there's no law saying I can't feed the cats. I think that's a great argument for the law. And we had a lot of people here saying that, you know, this isn't enforceable. And perhaps that's true on a small level, but certainly a level as egregious as what was described by Dale there could be enforceable. So I think there's great arguments against and for. I do also think that all the people that were in favor of this law, Dr. King, Peter, it seems to be a step in the right direction. It doesn't seem to be a comprehensive fixing of the problem. But I do definitely attach on to what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, that we've had a very strong outpouring of people against this. The people that are the most involved in this issue are against it. And I do think that alienating ourselves from them and from their help, where no matter what the best resolution for this problem is, we'll need their help for. I do think that the risk of alienating them is very real and should be very cognizant in our minds.
Okay, what do we do?
Let's table it.
Yeah, okay. I move that we table the resolution.
I mean, this
Pardon?
is local law, not a resolution, so
Okay.
table really doesn't accomplish anything.
Okay.
Because if you were to change the law, then that just requires you to restart the process.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
if you wanted to make any changes, it would make more sense to vote on it.
Okay.
Decision.
All right.
Anyone would like to still be heard?
Again, I mean, I'll just say, this is not a perfect solution, by no means. I think, again, I think it's a start, but I think it's also, and I tend to disagree with you a little bit, Patrick, in that I think we can still reach out to the folks that we heard tonight. I think that they would be willing to work with us. I know some of them have said no matter what, they would still continue to operate. So not having the ability to table, I think my recommendation is to pass it and then continue to work to improve the situation.
Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
No.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
No.
3 noes, 2 yes.
Motion fails.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the Champlain Valley Morgan Horse Association to hold annual community flea market for Elmore SPCA on October 13th, 2018 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Farmers Market Building. Electricity and use of bathrooms is requested. $20 utility use fee and insurance will be required.
Moved by Councilor McFarland, second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the Economic Development Consultant Contract for the Durkee Street Project of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative be awarded to White plus Burke Real Estate Investment Advisors, Inc. Payment for the contract will be made using funds included in the DRI grant. This award is made subject to the provisions of the request for proposals issued for the Durkee Street Project and to the terms of the DRI grant.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the Common Council approves the design and implementation contract for the marketing, branding, and signage strategy project of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, DRI, be awarded to Boyer Benner Group. Payment for the contract will be made using funds included in the DRI grant. This award is made subject to the provisions of the request for proposals issued for the marketing, branding, and signage strategy project and to the terms of the DRI grant.
Moved by Councilor Dowdle and seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Edsel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
No trouble requested this time. Are there any resolutions for initial consideration from the council? Seeing none, new business and additional council reports? Councilor Dowdle.
Yes, I'd like to, actually a constituent contacted me. There was some discussion that, they live on Sandra Avenue, that Prospect and Sandra Avenue speeders are going to be monitored now because of speeding, and they want to know how that's going to be done.
We sure hope so. Is there any possibility of getting access to one of those little kiosk radar machines that post speed? I know you've heard a number of complaints, not only on Sandra, but on Prospect, people using that almost as connecting streets now.
If you'd like to discuss it at a later time, we can have a discussion about it.
I was under the impression it was underway, no?
No, we're aware and hearing a lot of similar complaints.
Okay.
But we don't have currently one of those machines, although I'm sure it wouldn't be unreasonable for our patrols to step up surveillance as your resources permit.
Certainly.
Okay. And the individual that Councilor Cruster spoke on, they had concerns about cars backing into their fence. I just happened to meet that gentleman a couple days ago, Mr. Major. And he invited me to look at his fence where his children play and cars do back into it. And I couldn't remember because what we had thought might take place. Was there going to be signage considered for that as a non-turnaround?
I know.
Because he's starting to videotape and show me videotapes of cars. And, yeah, it's frequently happening.
Superintendent Brody's not here tonight, but I know he had looked at that. And Joe, I think you were involved with that as well. Are you familiar with it?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure where we're talking about.
It's the corner of South Street and South Peru Street. It's a little dead end, but cars get up in the back. They keep hitting this gentleman.
I know that street.
Okay. It's a very short street, but yes. Okay.
Perhaps you can contact Mr. Brody and see what strategies he's got.
I'd just like to comment on Resolution D from tonight. I didn't get a chance to do it before we voted on it, but the Boyer Benner Group is a local Plattsburgh firm, as I understand. And I just wanted to say to Mr. Miller, I'm so happy they were selected. I know you did it fairly and impartially, but I'm glad they ended up on top of the heap, so.
Yeah, they were the highest scoring proposal, so.
Thank you. There is one caution about signage in our city, I'm afraid, and that is that we have too much of it. We have signs telling us that we're on the Adirondack coast. We have signs telling us that we're on the Adirondack wine trail. We have signs telling us that we're on the Heart Healthy Trail. And sometimes I get confused because I don't know which trail I'm on. So I wish you would pass that on to the Boyer Benner Group as they do their work to see if we can't streamline that or maybe remove some of those trail signs that are obsolete and just look at signage in general.
There was nothing in the RFP that would prevent them from streamlining the existing signs rather than adding to it, so that certainly be a consideration.
I guess if we ended up with fewer signs at the end of this project, I'd be happy.
Any other new business or council reports?
Did we get a weekly expenditure report?
No, because Richard's gone.
Okay. So these will still need to be signed without the benefit of that?
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else we're going to the order? If not, are there any additional closing comments from the public on any issue of mutual concern? Please come forward. If you can, because we're on electronic and there's a
I
microphone.
just wanted to ask, are there other cities that have had problems with feral cats?
Oh, yes.
And how do they handle that?
Certainly, I think this next process, I imagine that this issue hasn't gone away. I think we need to look at what other communities do, solicit the collaboration of this community and their expertise. And I believe that actually with sufficient collaboration with some of the ideas, like permitting and RFID tags, et cetera, to hold the owners responsible. I think that we can address many of these concerns today. We all care about too many skunks in our backyard and that kind of thing. So I think we'll find a solution, and there's plenty of examples that we can look at.
Instead of going to war with the pet, with the animal, it seems to be the restrictions of those people who do want to go. I'm sure this community, there's got to be an answer somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
Because stifling their food, to me, makes sense.
Thank you. Any other final public comments for this evening, please?
I'm Ryan Brienza. I've been born and raised here in Plattsburgh, and I currently run Zafra LLC, which is a local cryptocurrency mining hosting company. I was just wondering, we're planning on expanding, and since we're an existing company that's been grandfathered in, are we capable of doing that?
This isn't a forum where we're going to do question and answers. It would require a review of what your specific proposal is in light of the existing moratorium. The short answer is any permit that would be required for any expansion would be subject to the moratorium.
Okay, even if we're an existing company? Or?
So I can't give, that's why there isn't typically a question and answer, because you can't answer a question without full information.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was an application to be submitted to the building inspector's office, then you could have an answer.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to answer a question. You talked about the feral cats and returning them and people not responsible, that when they're returned, they're going on other people's. When I worked with Victoria St. John, we always asked the property owners on either side if we could have the colony there. Now, maybe now the people that are running them don't do it, but that's what we did. And I've got a brain injury, and I don't understand what the conclusion is about the cats. What did you decide?
The local law was defeated, but we're going to continue to explore the issue and work with the various groups to come up with a good solution.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded by Councilor McFarland. Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Hensel?
Yes.
Counselor McFarland?
Yes.
Thank you, folks.
Get on the line trail. Just stay on it.
That sounds like good advice.
Peter, are these yours?
Carry it out. Wrote a press release for Saturday, and I looked it over. She's gonna make a few changes, send it to you.
Okay, well, tonight, sure.
Look it over, and then we're gonna go with my comments that I sent to you on Tuesday. You're good with those two, right?
That's good.
All right, then as soon as you approve it, she's gonna send both of them out to Gary and the state. And
So Michael Crane didn't have any additional comments?
he did, but he commented, I printed out the wrong version of the thing for him, so. I just kind of went with yours since you already said they were.
Thanks.
Plus, because they're always stopping or not staying. Yeah. All this work, all this effort. Right. And the first two female cats, and then they'll come in and be right back. So we're really trying to get the, trying to get to stop dropping them.